So 3 years ago, I started working in the Bronx again. The whole goal was to kind of really learn the Bronx and see what's going on. Started working at Montefiore Hospital. At that time, I started my master's program. Shout out to the gentleman who put me on. At the same time, I was also studying too. So I started with a program called CMS. I was helping people with HRA benefit, aka food stamps. So the program closed after 3 months. I just started and been open for 20 years. So when I moved into Benefits Navigator, I was working with all families from all 5 boroughs. I think I started realizing that yes, many people depend on public assistance. That's the truth. Some truly need it. And some is very questionable. Who am I? But I realized that I was looking at the surface level, right? So when I became a preventive worker, I went the background in public benefits and now learning the clinical lens and having to go to school and having a mentor, which we had to do over 900 hours, right? So my perspective changed. So I stopped asking why don't Black and brown communities can move forward. I started asking like what structures they were standing on. Sometimes I feel like it's not laziness. It's unprocessed grief. I even had a client was wearing clothes from a loved one who passed away. And that grief was the reason why the child wasn't going to school. And, now it's a single family working very hard. So it's irresponsibility. But then you also have poor financial structures. People are receiving SSI, food benefits, cash assistance, child support, and they got stabilized rent. So they technically have money when I've been looking at the numbers, but no blueprint, no financial literacy, no structure, just excess, right? Excess become now coping mechanism, alcohol, drugs, escaping, and then we see hospitalization. Then we see the system react instead of prevent. So there's stigma around early intervention when catching developmental concerns early for a child can even change their trajectory, but misinformation delays help. Even when I look at mental health, the stigma is real there, and I've referred many families to therapy, and I've watched transformation happen when they gain structure and support. Not a child who has an IEP and the other child doesn't, and now transportation for the family becomes a barrier when they were just in a shelter and they moved far. So, I can see which policy supports families and which quietly harms them, but through the studies, I also see a lot of research about our communities that's also written from people who are not from the communities, and the tools that are creating for us are not even by us. You know what I'm saying? So I grew up in it. I have a parent with mental health challenges. I've navigated public systems. I've had grief experience at a young age, and I survived it, studied it, mastered it. So what I've learned so far is that it's not about just the money, not just about the motivation, not just about the faith. It's about the structure, the foundation, right? The foundation needs to be rebuilt, and that's what 3 years in the Bronx has taught me so far, and I'm just getting started, baby.